The story took place from the time that I was 11 to 16 years old. My parents had gotten a divorce when I was 9, and my little sister was 6. We ended up moving to the other side of town to a little house that my mom had rented. My mom got lonely, so she decided to try dating. She began dating this man named Matt. They dated for about a year until my mom discovered that he was cheating on her. Little did she know that wouldn't be the end of Matt. When they were together, he would show abusive tendencies. He would commonly scream at me and my little sister. I was only 10 at the time that this happened, so I became very afraid of him. Once my mom kicked him out, he began stalking us who had parked in front of our house and just sat there all night. I don't know what he did in the car all night, but I would stare at that car for hours until I fell asleep. And then the next day, he would be gone. One time when I was 13, he got ballsy and came to our door. He would just stand there all night until like 5 minutes before my mom got home. He would also go around the house and knock on all of the windows. I once woke up in the middle of the night to my little sister screaming. I ran to her room and she was crying in her bed. She said that Matt was outside her window. I wasn't getting the proper amount of sleep that I should have because I was really scared that he was going to break in. I actually told my dad about it on our next visit, and he gave me a phone, and he said to call him if he came back. And sure enough, he came back, knocking on my bedroom window. I called my dad, and he rushed right over, cursing Matt out. Look, I'm going to tell you this once. If you don't leave my kids alone, I'm calling the cops on your fucking sorry ass. Matt did leave us alone for about 2 weeks, but then he came back. My 14th birthday had just passed by this point, and he decided to leave me a little birthday gift right outside my bedroom window. It was a fucking dildo. I was disgusted. I was a child. I told my mom about this, and we went to get trained on how to use a gun. She told me if he came back to threaten him with the gun. He did come back, and I did indeed threaten him with the gun, and he never showed up again after that, but he did begin to stalk me and my mom on our social media. What the hell's wrong with this guy? It had been about 4 years since he and her dated. Why was he still stalking us? I began to have night terrors of him breaking into our house and actually kidnapping me and my sister. It got so bad to the point that I had to go to therapy over it. When I was 16, the stalking on social media stopped entirely. No new fake accounts, no nothing. I guess they found someone else to stalk. My mother is now happily married to another man named Danny, and he's the sweetest stepdad ever. I'm 23 years old now, and I really hope to never come across as Matt again. What a psycho he was. I was 20 at the time this incident occurred, and I'm a female. I lived in Alberta, Canada, at the time when I was a college student. I was used to living in a city environment, so I always considered myself to be pretty street smart. I went about my life as normal, but one day, that all changed. I was on every social media that you can think of, including Twitter. I wasn't on it much, but I had an account anyway. One day, my sister had called me back home in Quebec, and I immediately knew that something was wrong. She demanded to know where I was, which confused me, but I told her I was at home, and I asked her what was going on. It was the weekend that I wasn't at work or school, so I had some rare time to myself. She told me that she didn't know how to tell me this, but there was a video of me circulating on Twitter, and that she needed me to know. I asked her what she meant, and she said she would send me the link, and that she was so sorry. I was anxious now, and I asked her to please tell me what the hell's going on. She told me that she wanted to video call me, which I agreed to, and we hung up so we could do that. When I answered, she looked like she had been crying, and her eyes were frantic. I asked her again to please tell me what the hell was going on, and what she meant that a video of me was circulating. She told me that basically there was this Twitter page called Canada Creep. She said it was a page dedicated to posting photos and videos of women without their consent, and that often these messages and videos were inappropriate, close subs of women's breasts and butts. My blood ran cold, and I felt sick. My sister had told me that she had heard about the page, but never thought much of it, since sadly, a lot of creeps do that sort of thing. However, she told me that someone had reached out to her and told her I was on it. This person was on the page, trying to get it taken down, and it recognized me. I needed to see how bad it was, so when my sister sent me the link, I looked. I recognized myself walking down the street from behind. I was wearing a long-sleeve shirt and jeans. The footage followed me, zooming in on my ass before suddenly switching to the front of me. He must have got ahead of me somehow and edited 2 clips together. My top wasn't low cut at all, but even if it was, no one deserves to be perved on. The camera showed my full face in the second half, and then zoomed in on my chest area as I walked. The clip wasn't very long, but it wasn't short either. It made me burst into tears to know that someone had been filming me, and that it was now online, all for a bunch of perverts to thirst over. I recognized the outfit, and the video must have been taken just a few weeks before, within the same month I discovered it. I recognized where I was, and I hadn't felt like anyone was watching me or filming me. I was shaking as I racked my brain around it. How could I have not noticed someone was filming me, especially from the front? Wouldn't I have seen a man waving his phone at me? I couldn't stop crying, and my sister kept telling me how she was so sorry, and she began crying too. The creep captioned it was something I don't want to share, just in case anyone tries to find me, but it made me sick because it was something so gross and dehumanizing. One of my roommates must have heard me because she knocked on my door, and I told her she could come in. I ended up telling her everything, and she tried to console me. She said that she had no idea that a page like that existed, but I ended up finding out that some people at our college were aware of it. Some people were actually trying to get it taken down. I don't want to give any information about my identity because I'm honestly still paranoid that some pariahs from that page could still find me somehow. But I'm going to be sharing some links the Southern Cannibal can put in the description if he decides to use the story, just for anyone who might want to read about it. Anyway, I tried reporting the video, but Twitter didn't take it down. The page had thousands of followers, and I don't know if all of them were creeps, or maybe it was people trying to keep tabs to close it down. The man was eventually caught, but it didn't erase all the stress he had caused. I feel like I was one of the lucky ones, because so many other women were victims of upskirting, and I can't even imagine how violating that would feel. I feel violated enough having this man zoom in on my chest and fully covered behind, knowing a bunch of perverts lusting over it, never mind the world seeing my underwear. To this day, I feel uncomfortable and on high alert in public, and I struggle taking public transport, as I was near public transport when he got footage of me. It's been several years now, but I still feel so angry. This complete stranger has destroyed my trust in the world, and I'll never get it back. I want to start off by saying that the story took place when I was a different person than who I am now. For context, I was a bad drug addict for about 10 years. I'm not proud, but I did work as an escort on the side. I had met guys who treated me decently. Then there were the ones who weren't so nice. Anyway, one night when I was home, I received a call from my boss, saying a customer who we'll call Mike came in yelling, saying that I hit his car. Mind you, I didn't even have a car. After settling that, I must admit that business was slow, and that my regulars just weren't able to help. Mike continued to call and text. So after a while, I agreed on seeing him. He would always come so late, and getting him to leave was a whole nother issue. After that, I would have regulars over and would look down my street And who do you think was there? Yeah, Mike. No one had asked him to be there. After my day left, he came banging on the door, asking who that was, and he then threatened me with a statement that made me scared as hell.
You better be glad that he left.
And when I asked why, he then said to me,
I can make your life a living hell.
Little did I know he was serious. To add further content, the stuff that he wanted was insanely odd. Well, to me anyways, he insisted on me kissing him with my eyes completely open and never used terms of endearment. One time I called him babe, and he blew up saying that's a word strippers use for people who don't care about anything. Every day after that, it was constant messages, asking when we could meet, and it even got so bad that he tried to find my parents' number to try and talk them into admitting me. Thank God they didn't listen. He then turned up after a couple of days without talking to him, and he made me a shrine like on my trailer steps. A lighter, a cigarette, anything he could use to try and make me feel bad for him. Finally, I'd had enough, so I couldn't handle the constant harassment. I had asked my boss to ban him from the club. Fortunately for me, my boss said yes. So if my story doesn't seem scary enough, well, I'm getting ready to go right there. One night after work, he had sat in the park, close to my trailer. He had apparently called my parents, saying how he couldn't live without me, as well as all the gray memories we've shared in the park. I eventually got fed up, and I told him to stop bothering my parents with this nonsense, and that I never wanted to see him again or a smelly car. He then hung up, but something told me that I got off way too easy. So about 2 nights later, I had fallen asleep watching a movie, and all of a sudden, I woke up to the smell of fire. I then looked over to see my wall of curtains were on fire. I was shocked, and I thought I was dreaming about it. I then ran out, no clothes whatsoever. I screamed for help, and my neighbors called 911. The fire was eventually put out a couple of weeks later. The fire department told me that it seemed like it was a short from the AC. Funny thing is, a few weeks later, Mr. Mike had admitted to another friend of mine that he felt like he had no choice but to do it. Now, I had no evidence it was him. Just here to say, but Mike, you best damn believe you did it, and you almost killed me. I hope terrible things happen to you. You truly deserve it. Hey friends, I hope you all enjoyed these stories. If you ever want to submit your own stories, then you can send us. Check the description for the details. See you next time.